What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. I'm not sure if anybody's paying attention. Not quite sure. There's so many things going on right now. But we are currently witnessing the greatest government cover-up since Watergate. All right? Like, remember Nixon? Remember how he was a disgraced president? Nixon, right? Because he covered up a few things, right? But look what's happening now. Donald Trump has exceeded all corrupt expectations. Donald Trump is bigly breaking all corrupt records as he is the president of the United States. Like, do you realize that we have white men, okay? Keep in mind, because they had to get rid of DEI, which means get rid of all colors, get rid of all black folk, right? Do you realize that we have a government full of white billionaire men? All right, when I say the government, I mean like the administration, the cabinet. White billionaire men who are currently covering up an international pedophilic sex trafficking operation that the CIA used, all right, to blackmail politicians and other figures on the global scale to do what they want to do as far as pushing along America's foreign policy. Because I mean, the CIA does that. I know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm going to give the CIA a pass. Because they do a lot of dirty shit that we need them to do. I mean, because in the real world, we do need some dirty shit to happen. All right? I mean, we live in the real world. But I'm just saying, but this shit right here, imagine all the oligarchs on the global scale, right? Because you know they participate in this shit. This Epstein thing, he's one node in a network of many nodes. You think Jesse Epstein's the only rich white billionaire or multimillionaire to have an island with a bunch of underage women on it that's being taken advantage of? No. There are islands right now that's operating right now that have the same clientele that Jeffrey Epstein had that is currently indulging in those activities right now. There's also many places in Europe, because Europe is like the #1 hotspot central for those people. Makes sense. You know, seeing how that particular activity seems to be very popular amongst the particular demographic of individuals, you know, that seem to always be involved in these kind of things, right? That's the truth. So we're witnessing the government. I mean, we talking about. And then we have all the POCs who want to be white so bad. They are helping rich white men, right? They're helping rich white men cover up pedophiles. So they don't actually care about children. They don't care about children. They're helping rich old white men not be held accountable for taking advantage of children and little teenagers. I don't care. If you 21, as far as I'm concerned, 18 and below, you're a child. You're a child, all right? I don't care if they're 17, 16, 15, whatever. That's a child, and we all know they're children. I don't care if they're aesthetically they have the adult features. They're children, all right? We're talking about white men who are, by the way, known in history for, you know, kidnapping millions upon millions of little girls, little children, and taking them places to make them slaves. We know this is the same demographic that have a history of going to other people's countries and raping the children and killing the men, or enslaving the men, or enslaving the men and the women, or raping the men and raping the women. I mean, they do it all, right? So with all that, I mean, we just using, you know, our deduction skills, our common sense, history, you know, geography, demographics. It all boils down to rich white men who want to stick their little Peters, all right, in diddy-dotty and anybody. I didn't mean to do that, diddy-dotty and anybody. That shit just happened, all right? In the comment section, give me my props, because that shit was natural. That shit was perfect. Diddy-dotty and everybody. You gotta pat yourself in the back sometimes. But anyway, I'm gonna put some information here, and I want you to check it out. Like, this is serious, guys. The entire government is covering up a Now, keep in mind, the government is owned by rich white men. A certain segment of rich white men decided, I want to be a part of the government. The whole cabinet Billionaires. Poor white folks who didn't want, who needed to react because they saw a black president who was successful, didn't have any controversy. Their reaction was to allow the absolute worst type of people into the office as revenge. These are the poor white folks' mortal enemy. They have been these people who are in charge are literally the reason why there's a such thing as poor white people. All the way back in Europe, white people have never been free. White people have been slaves. You know what a serf is? It's a slave. A serf, because y'all hear me say serf all the time. A serf is a person in Europe, or anywhere, but start in Europe, where let's say they're born on a land, and that land is happen to be royal land, right? By decree, by some fucking inbred bastard who got all the money, right? They can't even leave their land. It's illegal for them to leave the plot of land they live on. They have to farm that land on behalf of the crown. And then they can get a little portion. So it's slightly like sharecropping, right? It's forced sharecropping, right? If you were an iron worker or a smelter, or if you any trade you did that for the crown, all right? And then they paid you some coins, maybe, or they allowed you to keep maybe 10, 20% of the shit that you done produced and made, right? But don't you fucking leave, and don't you hunt on that land that you live on either. No. Don't kill the king's deer. Don't kill the king's rabbit. Don't kill the king's squirrel. Don't do anything. You can get death penalty for daring to feed yourself on the land that you have to live on. That's white people's experience in Europe. So when they came to America, they're like, shit, what you mean I can have that? This is mine? I'm a owner? They lost their goddamn mind, right? But the same rich white people, all right, whether they Jewish or Christian, because I'm tired of y'all keep acting like these Jewish people ain't white. They white. They from Europe. They Eastern Europeans. They white. They European. They are Anglo-Saxon barbarian savages and Scandinavians and Russians and Francophone. That's what they are. They white. White. All right? Jewish people are white. Their religion is Jew. They ain't no fucking, I'm a non-practicing Jew. Or, I seen videos or something like that. Jewish people like to do Buddhism. I'm like, oh, so Christian people like to do Buddhism. That's like saying that, oh, Muslim people like to do Buddhism. Like, no matter how many times you white people say it, Judaism is a religion that anybody can be, and there is no ethnicity or race attached to it. Okay, y'all made that shit up because y'all want to be everything and anybody but yourselves. Y'all want to live everywhere but in Europe. That's your homeland. Y'all need to go back and there make that place great. All right. But anyway, all the poor white people, y'all major enemy are these rich white people that you continue to empower, continue to silently fall in line and allow them to take advantage of you and everybody else. Right? But y'all starting to see that shit now, right? But listen, the greatest, this shit's gonna be studied in universities. This whole situation is going to be an epic story. Donald Trump will get the notoriety that he so desperately wants. He's going to get it. It ain't going to be the way he wanted, because he's going to go down as the worst piece of shit president since the last one that owned slaves, because I'm still adamant. People always say Donald Trump's the worst president in America. No, he's not. The worst presidents in America own slaves. You see how white people disregard the whole fact that they own slaves, that the presidents, the founding fathers, are a bunch of fucking genocidal murder, fucking slave owning pieces of shit that killed thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of Native Americans by way of genocide and murder and disease and federal policy, and enslaved Africans and these are the founding fathers. Keep that shit in mind. All right? Pieces of shits. The worst kind of human beings. They ain't my fucking founding fathers. Them white folks, that's your founding fathers. Y'all had that shit. Right? And they were just criminals who didn't want to give money to the queen. That's all it was. They got tired of being, they was just the upper class, one below the kings, who said, you know, fuck it, I'm going to go over here and we going to get it, and we ain't giving them shit. And for the whole, got all you poor white folk to fight for their ass too, to liberate their rich asses from the king. And there y'all sitting over here struggling like a motherfucker thinking that white was for you. White was just something they gave your ass so you can be compliant to do what the fuck it is they want you to do. Continue to oppress yourself and oppress everybody else so that they can have servants to serve them tea and crumpets and cookies and shit. So they can have people to fucking work their goddamn fucking yachts and shit when they go on vacation for half a goddamn year. So they can have somebody clean their goddamn mansion with the 24 bedrooms and shit. That's what they need you for. So they can come. There's a few people who's living the dream on this planet, right? In order for them to live the dream, they gotta subjugate the entire world. That's the only method they know, because they're savage barbarians, right? But y'all uplift all of them people because y'all think that they're so important and great because they got money. And now we have gotten to the point where we are all, you realize how many people we talking about? Did you see the redaction? They redacted pages and shit. Like, you can scroll and you see nothing but black. That's not legal. They're literally breaking all kind of laws. Like, and I know when this shit is over, oh, trust believe some designated individuals will be picked to take responsibility for this. But the people that we need to be taken responsible for this, to be held accountable, guess what? They won't be held accountable. We know it too. And you wonder why people take matters into their own hands. And I best believe some people will take matters in their own hands. And some people have taken matters in their own hands. If you haven't been paying attention lately, there's been a lot of regular folk going up to places like, I think there was one, remember that mass shooting where that black guy who played football went? And y'all, they told y'all that he was shooting up the football place. No, he went upstairs and specifically went up to, I think it was Blackstone. What was that company that's buying up all the real estate? And went and murdered the CEO. The one that's buying up all the real estate and making it impossible for people to live. Yeah, they didn't tell you that part. He went up there specifically and went and found a woman who was the CEO, I think, of BlackRock or Blackstone or one of them companies that own everything, and took him out specifically. All right? Shit like that. The CEO, we already know him, Luigi. He done took one out. Right? Motherfuckers ain't playing no more. All right? They tired of shit. Right? Anyway, y'all tell me what y'all think in the comment section. This is Afro Think Tank. Learn something. Teach something. I'm out.
All right, everybody, we have a lot more news to run through and no time to waste. The Epstein file cover-up being perpetrated by the Trump administration is the largest cover-up and scandal since Watergate. I would even argue that this is bigger in size, scope, scale than the Watergate cover-up that was perpetrated by Nixon. We have Donald Trump and all of the peripheral agencies surrounding him working in unison, in tandem, to cover up the Epstein files. Kash Patel lied in front of Congress months ago and said that Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic girls to anyone. Pam Bondi lied on Fox News months ago and said, the files are on my desk, they'll be released soon. Well, they weren't released until Democrats and Republicans in Congress had to force a discharge petition onto the House floor. A small group of Democrats like Ro Khanna and Republicans like Rand Paul used their leverage to essentially smack Speaker of the House Mike Johnson back into reality and say, dude, we have to release these files. Well, this morning, the Epstein survivors are blasting the Department of Justice for its mishandling of the files. This administration is like stepping on a rake over and over. It is cartoon-esque how much they are failing. Pam Bondi goes on TV, lies, and then realizes she lied and just gets community noted on Twitter right after. Elon Musk, who was a part of the administration, came out and said Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. And after the Epstein files were forced to be released, the cover-up has only gotten more bizarre and more severe. Remember the video I made the other day where DOJ files were deleted from the website in the middle of the night? Remember, they've redacted 37 pages of files saying that we had to entirely redact this to censor victims' names. Then they unredacted those files and there were no victims' names while they accidentally let victims' names slip through in other files. So this cover-up has not only been brazen, but we need to be relentlessly hitting home and hammering how this is just massive. If Watergate made the history books and has its own, chapter in the history books, this should have 5 chapters in the history books. This is a major abuse of power, and that's what the Epstein survivors are calling out. Statement from the survivors on December 22nd. Quote, the Epstein Files Transparency Act imposed a December 19th deadline for the United States DOJ to release its full records of the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein and his accomplices and enablers, with specific, narrow exceptions such as survivor identities, which of course, it's common sense. You redact survivors' identities, but nowhere in the Epstein Files Transparency Act did it say you also get to redact the names of government officials or people who may be donors. You also get to redact the names of people who may be friendly. There were so many names redacted that were not survivors. This law, enacted by a nearly unanimous vote in the House and unanimously in the Senate, and signed by the president, was clear. It afforded no permission for delayed disclosure. Instead, the public received a fraction of the files. Remember, this is coming from the survivors. And it's important to point out, these Epstein survivors have been working for decades to have their voice heard, whether it's a small judge in Florida who just refuses to hear them, or it's administrations covering up. Now, this administration, the Trump administration, is uniquely scandalous in the way they are trying to, suppress the survivors' voice.
Well, they are trying to ignore the law and bury the Epstein files. Trump thinks he's going to get away with it. I wouldn't be here with the flu like I am today if I was okay letting it happen. Don't worry. It's very, very mild, fortunately. Baruch Hashem, it's a very mild case, ladies and gentlemen. Perfect score on the flu. Listen, here is what's going on. After what we have seen for the last several months and Friday with the supposed release of the Epstein files, I can understand why Trump and his administration believe that they are going to get away with this. They finally, quote, released the, quote, Epstein files after years of promises about transparency and then walking it back. I guess it wasn't optional in the sense that Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act. It required disclosure with only very limited and narrow redactions, victims, the names of minors, people actively under investigation. That's it. And yet what we got is a complete and total farce. Page after page blacked out, documents rendered useless from redactions. And then very quietly, files started disappearing from the Department of Justice website altogether. No explanation, no notice, just gone. That is not transparency. It is evidence control and mitigation, and it gets even worse. Because while the DOJ was wiping documents and redacting names that legally should not have been redacted, the White House was actively pushing misleading material into the public conversation. The deputy press secretary posted a photo falsely implying that Bill Clinton, Michael Jackson, and Diana Ross were pictured with Epstein victims, when the image was actually a publicly available fundraiser photo showing Jackson's and Ross's own children. This was not a mistake. I warned everybody 2 weeks ago. We've got to be really careful with what is actually part of these files and what is real and what is not. Now, I'm looking for the simplest and plainest possible language to explain what's going on. On the one hand, legally mandated documents are being over-redacted, withheld, or removed entirely. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, we have misleading and outright false material being amplified to redirect attention to political opponents. This is strategy. It's not happening out of incompetence. It's happening out of malice. I often say, don't attribute to malice that which could be explained by incompetence. I don't have evidence that this is incompetence in this particular case. Now, notice something else. Trump's name, someone who is not a victim. Trump is not a victim. And Trump, I guess, is not under investigation from what we've been told. His name is redacted in places where others are not. And meanwhile, figures that Trump wants to point at are left visible. They are photographed. They are waved around in press briefings. Selective disclosure, narrative laundering is what they are doing. Now, Trump is betting on the same thing he always bets on. Exhaustion, a fire hose of distraction, and confusion. He's betting people will argue about personalities instead of process. He's betting nobody's really going to remain focused on this to figure out, wait a second, he signed the law, but then his own DOJ is violating it by not actually being transparent with the files. But the maybe uncomfortable truth is that if the full story is ever going to come out, it's probably going to have to happen through a leak. What I mean by that is, let me put it a different way. If we were ever going to get the full Epstein files through official channels, I think we'd have them right now. And if you look at history, it kind of tells us how this goes. The Pentagon Papers didn't surface because the government changed its mind. NSA surveillance didn't come out because officials suddenly said, hey, we should really embrace honesty and just be upfront about what we're doing. They came out because someone inside decided that the cover-up was worse than the exposure. And I believe at this point that the only way we get the full Epstein files is if someone leaks them. Because right now, Trump believes he's buried it all. And he thinks it's buried deeply enough that it's going to be, that it's not going to come out. And if the files do stay hidden and the redactions stand and the missing documents are never explained, Trump will end up being right. So we cannot allow that. We can't allow it because of politics. We can't allow it because it's what Donald Trump wants. If this works and they are able to suppress the full files, if a president can legally in theory, Trump's been legally forced to release it. And if he can still not do it, then it means that the law is optional, accountability is a mere preference, and we are in real trouble. So I believe that that is the real scandal that is at play here. And we are going to delve into some of the specifics of individual images that were gone and then put back. And sometimes the details do matter. There's no question. The details can inform our broader understanding. But the big picture here is Trump is increasingly confident that he's gotten away with this, and we need to make sure that he doesn't.
The cover-up for the copper-faced president has begun, and it's in full effect. Pam Bondi, along with the Department of Justice, failed to release all of the Epstein files by the deadline, which that's no surprise to anybody. We all saw that coming. And they claim that they're going to release, it all in batches. But that's not what the law, which was signed by the Orange One himself, Donald Trump, says. They were supposed to release all of it. So now Tom Massey and Ro Khanna are starting the process of impeachment of Pam Bondi. And, it's funny that everybody around in the Trump administration thinks that they have immunity as well. But they don't understand that that immunity only belongs to Trump. And he's not going to be there to protect them forever. Either he's going to be impeached and removed himself, which is a great possibility, or his term will end and another president will be put in place. Either way, Donald Trump is not going to be able to protect these people forever. But yet they think that he's going to. They think that they are invincible, and they're not. And Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, all of these people are going to find out the hard way when they're all sitting in prison. The day of reckoning is coming. Same thing with all of these ICE agents who think that they would never be held accountable. There are records, there are videos, there are paycheck stubs. You won't be safe from punishment for your crimes forever. And that's a fact.
One of the e-files slipped through with an unredacted version, and I want to show it to you, omitting certain words so that this video can stay up. This is also about Bill Clinton, and if you see in that first part, it talks about my friend had you-know-what with Clinton and others. So he is just as guilty as anybody else in this and needs to be brought down. Now take a look at this third bullet point, though, because this one is the one that got through unredacted. It talks about another friend. One was of many girls that had relations with you-know-who. She confided in me about her casual friendship with him and definitely seemed to have a thing for her. And then it goes on, he liked her, read that in the quotes right there. He liked flicking and you know what. And until they were raw. And one evening they were together and she showed them to me and they looked incredibly painful and swollen. I know she had relations with you-know-who at the New York mansion. That is the tip of the iceberg. That is one of the unredacted ones. There was a redacted version and that unredacted that slipped through. It was not caught because there are thousands and thousands of mentions of this man in these files that even with the FBI working 24 hours a day for like a week, months ago, trying to scrub his name, it was absolutely impossible. How can you read that and not have a sick feeling in the pit of your stomach? How can you look at that man as president and think, yeah, I'm proud of that. I am not defending Clinton and I'm not defending him. I will not defend anybody who is listed in these files and is found to be doing these types of behaviors because that is absolutely unacceptable.
Fuck this, fuck that, and bitch, fuck you. Fuck this, fuck shit, fuck your daddy too. No, I ain't forget your motherfucker too. Motherfucker, fuck your blood and this fuckery they got us going through. Some fuck-ass white man long ago got all his fuck-ass friends on board with fucking up the world for sport. With fucked up weapons, ways and words. Now fast forward to present day. Their fuckery has had its way, but as sure as F-U-C-K, this dog will have its fucking day. Fuck this, fuck that, and bitch, fuck you. Fuck this, fuck shit, fuck your daddy too. No, I ain't forget your motherfucker too. Motherfucker, fuck your blood and this fuckery they got us going through. Those fuckers put us under spells. Said fuck y'all to a living hell. Fuck all the laws that nature tells. So we die cursed while they live well. But fuck, I've had it up to here. I curse their curses with no fear. I give no fucks, I live to hear the song that justice sings so clear.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan. Boycott diamonds and gold. We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.